Lawson joins us live in studio. No shock to you, I'm sure, as a Connecticut Yankee. Well, I grew up thinking Dolly Parton was that amazing actress from 9 to 5. I didn't really know her amazing country music catalog. I'm sure it was reversed for you, right? Country music first, acting second.
Yes, it was. But she touched so many lives. I mean, just in a whole host of ways with her, particularly with her literacy stuff.
Unbelievable.
I mean, my wife's family is from Nashville, and her mom. We still get books for our kids that
The library program.
the library book program that she brings from Nashville, and it's like one of the best parts when her mom comes and visits and she brings the books, and it's just so cool. So many ways she touched so many lives.
Wrote over 3,000 songs. Crazy smash hits. By the way, trending, Jolene right now is #1 on Apple Music. I love that. One of my favorite songs of all time. But the first line of her obituary has got to be the philanthropic work she did. And that library program started because her dad was illiterate. He didn't get a chance to go to school and couldn't read. I mean, is there anyone better that ever walked the earth than Dolly Parton? She's amazing.
So amazing. And all these stories that are coming out on social media, just about all of the things and all of the philanthropic deeds that she did that nobody even knew about, that she didn't even want to get credit for, that she did behind the scenes. I mean, what a life well lived. What an icon, what an inspiration to so many people.
And bipartisan support on President Trump. I think great flags at half staff. If there was ever a celebrity to get that treatment, it's Dolly Parton.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the politics. Primary win yesterday for Lindsey Graham's sister. I didn't know which way this was going to go, but I think a big win for President Trump getting Darlene Graham into Lindsey's seat, or at least going into the general election.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Mark, South Carolina has been this topsy-turvy state in terms of all of these primaries. We had the original primaries for the governor and the statewide races. Then, obviously, Lindsey Graham's passing created this special election, which then got narrowed down into a runoff between Darlene Graham and Ralph Norman, which concluded yesterday. And Darlene Graham, obviously you mentioned President Trump had endorsed her, the sister of the late Lindsey Graham. And this, I think, will be probably a safe seat for her for a while. If she will continue serving probably as long as she wants. Senate seats in South Carolina tend to be
forever.
Forever. And so, a big win for Donald Trump getting her across.
And I think for a couple of reasons. But first I want to get into, this wasn't just an endorsement. This wasn't just him coming down to campaign. Like the Ebenezer Scrooge, whoever controls the President Trump super PAC, like they've got hundreds of $1 million and they're not spending it. They actually spent some money on this race, which to me was an indication like, oh, they really wanted her to win.
They did want her to win. You mentioned they are sitting on around $400 million in campaign funds. They spent about $1 million to help get her across the finish line. I think there are a lot of Republicans out there, Mark, particularly in Georgia, that are wondering when and if the president might be spending some more of that $400 million. Because
is he gonna spend any of that money?
TikTok.
And again, I think the biggest, assuming she wins in November, something could happen where but we assume that the Republican's going to win that seat. Once she is installed in the Senate full time, President Trump never has to worry about her vote on anything, right? That it's not a Rand Paul, kind of vote or a Thomas Massey vote in the House. Like this is 100% all the time. President Trump's got a layup vote in the Senate.
Yeah, for the next 2 years, certainly. But remember, Senate seats are 6-year terms. So Darlene Graham, while she is certainly going to be supportive and reciprocating that loyalty to Donald Trump, she's also got a post-Donald Trump Senate career, as do a lot of senators that I think that she'll be thinking about.
That's why we pay you. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, there is going to be life eventually after the Trump administration. Political analyst Stephen Lawson joining us live in studio. All right, let's go from South Carolina to the Peach State. All of a sudden, data centers becoming a big political issue. Tomorrow, we're going to have Congressman Rich McCormick on to talk about that. Is this going to have an impact on the midterms, or is this a longer-term political issue, do you think?
I think both. I think it's a both and situation. We've talked about data centers a lot, Mark. They are very increasingly becoming a political flashpoint. Here in Georgia, we have a number of data center projects, obviously, as your listeners know. Some have worked better than others. I think that's fair to say. I think You're seeing this play out in the governor's race in particular. Rick Jackson has really said, look, this is a local decision. These data
Oh,
centers
hey, that's what I said.
right, exactly, need to be decided on the local level. Keisha Lance Bottoms has taken a more aggressive, hostile approach, saying that we need to pause and look at a moratorium on them. I think Rick's answer is the right one. I think in some areas in the state, when these projects are done well, with community buy-in in a transparent way, they can create huge tax revenues and lower property taxes and all of these things. But when they're not, I think that's what you've seen some pushback occur. I think the industry as a whole also has to do a lot better job of explaining the benefits to local communities and talking about situations that have worked. I think all of those pieces are critical. But yeah, Georgia really is ground zero in a lot of ways for these data centers.
So these are the my position on the data centers. One, I think it should be a local issue. Like, let local jurisdictions determine. Two, the energy consumption. I'm going to take Georgia Power at their word that they're like, hey, we can handle it. We got Plant Vogtle. We're good. And third was job creations. And I had been under the impression that there were minuscule amount of jobs created after the building of it. But we had the reporter on covers coastal Georgia for the AJC, that $20 billion plant in Effingham County. And he says at the top end, it could create 1,000 long-term jobs. To me, I was like, oh, all right, that alleviates some of the concern I have with these data centers.
Yeah, there's some projects that do create more long-term jobs than others. You're talking about the OpenAI project, which is going to be a transformational project, I think, for Southeast Georgia. But it's also the indirect jobs, Mark. When you think about construction, when you think about some of these tech jobs, the support systems, all of these things kind of factor into it. But again, it goes back to what you said. It's got to be the right fit for the community. I think about a lot of these rural Georgia counties that could use that injection of tax revenue, but in some counties it may not make sense. So it's a balanced approach.
Do we need to give these operations tax breaks at the end of the day? Because I know that's a thing that the governor has been touting, and he's been a big proponent of the data centers. I mean, I think they might need us more than we need them. Do we need to give them tax breaks moving forward?
It's a question the legislature and the governor have wrestled with a lot. It's come up a couple times over the past few years, particularly in the state Senate here. They have pushed to do away with those tax incentives. I think it depends on who you ask. If you ask some people, they say, look, these data centers really can go anywhere. They've got their pick. And so, we need to kind of create an incentive for them to come to make sure that we're getting those tax revenues for these local counties. If you talk to other people, they'll say, nah, maybe they'll come without them. So it really just depends on who you ask on that question. But I do think having an open door for these types of investments is a good thing.
They're not going away anytime soon. Unless Elon Musk can get them on Mars or built in the ocean. I mean, there's a ton of proposals of what to do with these data centers. It is going to be a long-term thing that we are all going to have to deal with, because AI is not going anywhere. We're going to need the energy. Political analyst Stephen Lawson joining us live in studio. Let's stick to the governor's race. The Rick Jackson economic plan rollout. What are we expecting in a Jackson governorship?
Yeah, he really laid out a detailed proposal last week, Mark, talking about cutting taxes on utilities and natural gas on residential users, cutting tax on tips, kind of mirroring that federal provision, talking about creating a trigger to permanently suspend the gas tax if there are spikes and rises in gas prices here in the state that would create an automatic trigger. Obviously, he's talked about slashing the property tax and income tax, cutting that in half. I think he's laying out a real detailed agenda. We know affordability, Mark, is the number one driver in this election cycle. It will be. There's some questions about how the president has kind of handled that. I think it's smart for Rick to lay out a detailed proposal, because I think at the end of the day, when people are hurting, they're going to say, okay, who is giving me the solutions to get it done? On the other side of the aisle, you've had Keisha Lance Bottoms take Trump to task over this beef import issue. which I think is honestly smart on her part to look at that. Obviously, our beef growers are really hurting in this country. There's a lot of them that think that opening the door is going to undercut them on their prices, which they're already having a hard time dealing with. We know that ag is our number one industry in this state. So it's a really interesting move for her, gives her a wedge issue against Donald Trump as his approval ratings are starting to sag, but also lets her kind of message to the ag community here in Georgia.
Reason number 7,000 why I'd never go into politics. That's a rock and a hard place for the Trump administration when it comes, because we're struggling to pay for beef. Like people are foregoing ground beef and steaks because it's too expensive. So you want to provide a cheaper alternative, but then you got the ranchers who are lighting their hair on fire because of this. So I'm glad I don't have to make tough decisions like that. I just have to decide what we're going to have for lunch. Yeah,
maybe not beef.
Yeah, no beef, Vinny. No beef. It's too expensive. All things Stephen Lawson at Dentons.com. Dentons.com. Stephen, always a pleasure, my friend.
Great to be here.
All right, 10:48 on the Mark Aram Show. When we come back, we're going to update our top low.